I do think that's a real key, is to figure out that one thing that you know, because it's a lot of these things are cyclical, even if it's gold or even bonds or something like that. They go through cycles, and you learn what they do and how they act at certain points, and you kind of react to that. And then the more you get to know that particular vehicle, the more your intuition can take over.
Welcome everybody to another funded trader of TradethePool. Today, Tim is with me on the line, a new funded trader. Thanks for coming, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So we'll talk with him about his experience in TradethePool and trading in general. We'll see his dashboard as well. So Tim, you passed the evaluation of the extra buying power, which means $160,000 buying power you traded with, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Alrighty. So let's maybe dive in right away. You do have your own broker account currently?
I do, but it's for mainly trading options, and TradethePool was such a much better option because you didn't have to worry about the day trading stuff or the PDT, right. And you didn't have to worry about, time decay. That, like, the thing with options, I've been trading options for about 4 years, but it's hit or miss, and you'll have great days and you'll have terrible days. And so just for options and, the typical 401k retirement accounts, but that's for more long-term. So the style of trading with TradethePool does is more along how I like to get in, get out day to day. I like the fact that you don't hold anything overnight. You sleep better at night when you don't hold anything overnight.
For sure.
And it also cuts down the risk.
Amazing. So actually TradethePool was the first time that you started to trade like intraday on an intraday level stocks?
Yeah, it is. And if you notice, I did fail my first evaluation, and I failed spectacularly. Didn't know that it was one of those things that I made one mistake trying to figure out the software, hit a buy instead of a sell, and next thing you know, I'm out $1,300, or I was out the max slot for the day. Didn't read the fine print, decided to buy back in for that day's trading, and lost another $1,300. And I think I set the record. I think I was down my first evaluation in a couple of days, but
not even close to setting the record.
So it was the first time. So it took me a day or two to kind of get the feel for proper sizing and proper what to trade. So
and you actually did it really great, because you had the first evaluation that you failed, but the second one you already passed. And I always say that on other interviews as well, and show it as well, that guys usually will take between 3 to 5 attempts until they pass the evaluation.
It's not easy.
So you need to get used to a little bit the rules and the platform, and just the idea that you have those boundaries, the risk boundaries and the size, and maybe you have a different strategy that you need to tweak a little bit. So those kind of elements will usually take you a minute until you get used to the fact that you're trading with a prop. But like you said, the benefits of doing that are huge compared to trading your personal account, right?
Exactly. Like I said, you sleep better at night knowing that you've got a little cushion there, that if you do have a bad day, you're out your max and you're not blowing your entire account. So it's definitely the guardrails. I've seen reviews about them being, people complaining about them, but I'm all for it because it protects both capital and you're trading. The idea is if you lose all your money, you can't trade the next day. So it keeps you in the game and keeps you at it.
100%. So let's talk a little bit more about your trading style. What is it that you like to trade? What are you looking for?
The funny thing is I use S&P futures to set my levels for each day. So I use either order flow, weekly levels, weekly and daily levels mainly on the ES futures. And then what I do, I've been trading, I started with SPY on your platform, and then I moved to SPXL, which is just a three-time bull on the S&P. So once I got comfortable with how to use SPY, then it was like, set your levels for the day. I've got a main level that's bullish above, bearish below, and a top resistance and a bottom support, and kind of trading between those three levels. And as I got more comfortable with my levels and more comfortable with how to use the platform, I moved over to the SPXL trading vehicle, and you have to do math. So with SPXL, you've got to do math on, especially if you're converting from futures levals. But I use the futures levels because it's so robust. The S&P 500 is one of the most traded, highly traded in the world. So besides bonds, and so there's a lot more traders, a lot more volume, and you can see a volume profile a lot easier.
Yeah.
So comes to that.
100%. I mean, that's a smart move going for the futures, for analyzing them, and then trade either the ETF like the SPY, or as you mentioned, from time to time I will trade SQQQ or TQQQ. That's for the NASDAQ, or SPXL, as you mentioned.
What you find with the three indexes is there's always one that's a laggard and one that's pushing the others. So you kind of figure that out. I'm a one-trick pony. I like to stick with, one or two different. I try not to make things more confusing. And every now and then I'll look at an NVIDIA or a Tesla or something that's moving to possibly trade that. But yeah, S&P 500 is as bread and butter as you can get. It's boring, but it can be profitable if you hit the right resistance and supports.
Amazing. I mean, there are obviously so many ways to trade, right? You can do stocks in play. You can trade one specific asset, penny stocks, whatever it is. And eventually when you find your niche, that's the most important key, right?
Really
you
is.
have what you know and it works for you. So that's it. You're good.
Yeah. I do think that's a real key, is to figure out that one thing that because it's a lot of these things are cyclical, even if it's gold or even bonds, TLT or something like that. They go through cycles and you learn what they do and how they act at certain points, and you kind of react to that. And then the more you get to know that particular vehicle, the more your intuition can take over, and if you not quite get to your support, or you're not quite get to your resistance and it starts to struggle, you can see that, it's about to sell off, and we're gonna take it down a little bit. So
nice. Tim, just before we will go to your dashboard, I gotta go back to the option part. When you started to trade options, what was the reason to go to trade options and not trading stocks from the get-go?
Just the access to capital. Like, options allow you to risk very little to make a lot, and you'll hit it every now and then, but I'd say 80 to 90% more options. Options are more a losing battle just because of the time decay. So it's a bit like, options were nice entry into get you hooked, I guess. It's like the crack cocaine of investing, but definitely not as having your capital and risking capital without a time decay is much safer way to go if you're day trading.
Alrighty, sounds good. I'm gonna share my screen in a second and show the guys that own the dashboard, basically the process that you did. So for those of you not familiar, this is how it looks like. We have obviously dark mode, light mode, and you got your profit target that you need to reach, your max loss, daily loss, and of course the progress bar, some rules that you need to stick within them, and then you have some statistics. So we can easily see, before we'll talk a little bit about this chart because it's interesting, you have the success rate at 56, that's decent, and a 2.1, and as you mentioned, SPXL is your asset to trade, right? You literally trade.
Yep.
So you had nice gains here, like 2,200.
So with your rules of 30%, one key for anybody else trying to do this is know what your max is and don't go over that, and you can always get back in the trade. So I was, sometimes if it was trending on a trending day, I'd have, stop it right at whatever that is. 30% of 7,800 was like 2,300 and change. And so I'd stop it there. I had bad days. I mean, there were days that you just can't get it right. Like you're expecting the market to stop and reverse, and it doesn't. It just keeps going. So that's the one thing. But once the administration changed here in the US, things have gotten a lot more volatile. So trading is, as long as you're on it, it's definitely a trader's environment right now.
100%.
And that's where my gain started, taking off a little bit here in middle of January or late January.
And let's talk a little bit about that chart right here, because it's interesting to see. First of all, you started kind of rusty, went down a little bit, then find some rhythm, but you had this big drawdown right here that almost got you to the point where you terminated the account, and then you flipped it. So tell us a little bit about that. What got you in the first place to that drawdown, and how did you pull yourself out?
Frustration and not being on top of my game those like 3 or 4 days. It was forcing trades that shouldn't have been there. I actually started listening to In the Zone, a book by Mark Douglas.
Yeah.
And that's really where my style turned around, I guess. Like you start to think differently about trading and not making it so emotional and being more, confident in what you're doing. So yeah, a little bit of self-help, a little bit of luck, and a lot of sticking to what has worked in the past and not giving up on the process. You're not always gonna hit home runs or even singles. You're gonna strike out a lot, but as long as you stick with the process, it's kind of like a casino. Being a casino owner, and they take big bets and small bets, and in the end they make money. And as a trader, if you're doing the same thing, you're using the process that you have an edge, and sticking with your edge.
Yeah.
Eventually, in the long term, it'll percentages will go for you.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I mean, the process, just sticking to what you know and what works for you, and then obviously there will be time to time that it won't work. But as long as you stick into your guns, you eventually get it, and the statistics will start work to your favor. No doubt about it. Amazing, Tim. You shared tons of great insight for the guys that just listened. How was the feeling of getting into that target?
Unbelievable, a little bit. Like you saw the chart, I was ready to give up.
Yeah,
it was one of those things where it's like this is too difficult, but then you start to get a little momentum, get a little confidence in yourself, and now it's a different thing. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Definitely was one of those pump your fist moments that you're like you did it, and now feels like sky's the limit. I think my key is to start slow. Start slow. Don't put yourself in a hole like I did the first time, and just grind up an account and make money for me, make money for you guys. It's gonna be a good thing.
Amazing. I saw your funded account, so it's already in profit. That's a great start. And as you mentioned, that the key is to start, especially on the funded account, start small and build that cushion, because otherwise it's easy to think, okay, that's it, I'm on the funded account, let's pound it and try to go all in. But it's actually the smartest way will be just to build that cushion and go for consistency rather than gambling all in situation.
Right. Yep.
Amazing. Alrighty, Tim, thanks so much for this interview. The guys at home that listen in, if you want to check us out, go to tradethepool.com. Hopefully you will be the next funded trader. And that's it. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.